Alrighty. So it's 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and get started. This is the May 21st, 2025 Planning Board meeting. I will just make a quick comment. I appreciate the Pownell residents showing up here tonight. Everybody is always welcome to our meetings. We don't often get much attendance, so thank you. Make sure that you have signed in if you haven't. The way I think we're going to run the meeting, or the way that we will be running the meeting, is we do have some planning board business that we do need to get through tonight. It shouldn't take us too long. We're going to try and be as efficient as we can to get through that portion. We are going to let Mr. Cram go over his proposal before the planning board, which is, I'm sure, why most of you are here. And then at the end of the night, I'll be giving residents a chance to comment, and we'll talk about how that will all work. So you just have to be a little patient with us, and we will get to folks towards the end of the meeting. Okay. So that said, the first order of business Yeah, for sure. The first order of business is the approving the meeting minutes from the April 16th meeting. Did anybody have any changes or comments? I second. All in favor? Do we have any updates from the April 28th public hearing on ordinance changes? Okay. Okay. Very good. Moving right along. So now I'll give an opportunity to Mr. Cram to go over his project.
There. And I think we did, yeah, we did this.
First, there.
Okay, and that's your microphone? And the
Right.
green light means it should be working.
You don't have to talk, right?
I don't, okay. I'm sorry, I guess I'll have to sit if I'm gonna run the slideshow here, but I want to thank everybody for coming. I think it's a good sign that there are a lot of people here, because this is a new ordinance in town, and there's a lot to know about it, and it's a bigger project than I know has been done recently in Pownell. And I want to back up and say, how did we get here? And it all starts in 1949, when I was born in April, and Dad bought that property and the first parcel in December. He bought several different parcels and rearranged them and sold some off, and kept the piece that you're familiar with and we're seeing tonight. Dad went to agricultural school. He thought he wanted to be in agriculture, and so he got a degree. He was a county extension agent for a while. He worked out west, and then the Depression came along, and his father said, "If you want to go into law, I'll pay for it." And so Dad went to law school and became a lawyer and went into business with his father. Then the war came along. 3 out of my 4 grandparents died of natural causes. And then Dad came back from the war and ended up moved in with his mother-in-law, my grandmother. But he saw this property and hoped that he might be able to move here. And that, I think the picture does speak to a rural character, if nothing else. And It turned out that he wasn't able to convince my mother to move. My mother was one of few people I know that were born and died in the same room of the same house. So it wasn't easy to move her. So I grew up in Cumberland, steeped in her history. But let me take you through these slides. I'm going to familiarize you with the property, and then Peter is going to take us through the process of how you meet the standards set out in your new conservation ordinance. So the first thing to see on this photograph is this was taken before Dad bought it, and things I noticed that are different. There are stone posts along the Brown Road, which disappeared. I mean, there's plenty of stone posts on, and you'll see there are no power lines. So, and I also wanted to point out do I have a mouse? I do. So the property is right here. You know, here's Bradbury Mountain, and you're sitting right there. And the reason I put the screen up is to note that there are 3 sole residences in 1871 here. There are 5 more on the Freeport side of the line. And that's my great-grandfather, Josiah Soule, who grew up in Pownell. And he married a young lady named Emily Soule from South Freeport. They were 3rd cousins, so it's not too close, right? But, right, so they were pretty local. And it was they had 3 daughters, the youngest of which was my grandmother, who in 1900 built the house in Cumberland. So the upper left is what the house looked like when Dad bought it in 1950. And then he sold it a few years later after he'd done some work on it. So that's it in 1952. You notice that the stones are gone. There are power lines now. And I want to point out there's a well head right there. And this is standing on the front lawn. So this is looking sort of northeast, into Durham. And that field right there is actually Gordon Grimes Field, which comes in off 136. So no trees at all. And this is looking down towards 220 again. No trees on the horizon. One more shot of the house. And then here is the spring. When Ann and I bought it back from Steve and Mary Goodwin after Steve passed away, it needed paint. So we came up with this gold color. And then here is a picture looking back. So in the mid 50s was when the barn was torn down, and which happens to a lot of big old barns. And it's interesting that no one, including myself, has ever put siding on this end of the barn. But, and Ray Spencer also put a picture window in here, but that's the only alteration. Mary was a real preservationist. She worked on the committee that put together the second history of Pownell, not the latest one, but the one in the middle. And it was the 1908 history that said that this house suggested it was the oldest house in town. But others have recently said, well, it was one of the oldest. So, but it's 1775 is what their main preservation is comfortable putting on it. So what purpose of this slide is to show you. So the yellow areas are all the fields that exist today. And I've done a lot of clearing in the last 15 years, and me and help with people like Eric Wentworth and others have cleared a lot of areas. So I'm going to walk through some photographs. At the bottom of the site, the brook runs along this border and then drifts over on a Kate Dave's property for the second third. I also want to point out there's something over along the left side is a whole series of little dots you'll notice, and those are flags that had the survey team put in at 150-foot setback that the new ordinance calls for. And that's so anybody can go in there and see what that means to be back 150 feet. And then Eric worked with me this winter to put we put in a trail around here, which is inside that line, because the ordinance also requires that buildings be 50 feet inside of the 150 feet. So houses will be 200 feet back from the road. And that's all pretty heavily wooded, so it'd be hard to see those houses actually. But let me just run through some photos. This is from up above the farmhouse looking southeast, I guess. And from the beginning, the plan has been to not have any houses go into this field. That's, been my strong feeling from the beginning. And when I show you, and then, well, then this is the second photo of the same field, but looking more due east. And then this is looking from behind those trees, looking this way. So the plan that we're showing tonight does show that there would be some houses in here looking that way, up this way, but they'd all be behind that line of trees over there. And then this is there's a long cleared strip now on the west border, coming down from Ken and Marcia Barrington's house on that whole west line. So this is about halfway down, looking back up to the Brown Road. And then this is just turn around and then looking down towards the Poland Range House. But it's probably 12 or 1,400 feet of cleared area there. And there would be no houses in that spot along that narrow border. There is one, I'll show you in a minute where there is one. This is looking back towards the Brown Road. And so the real reason that, when Mary called me, I instantly agreed to buy the house because it had 600 feet of frontage and enough acreage so that any builder could have bought the house just, without much hassle, cut it in half and put a house right there. And that was the last thing I wanted, was to have a house built blocking the view of all these fields from the public. So that's why it was important to me to get that. And the second thing I'll be talking about is that we're preserving over 79 acres of land in this process, and there's 7 to 10 of it right here, which I intend to put an agricultural easement on, so that I feel that we need to maintain some local farming, and it'll be up to generations of people, whether that's hay or small crops, obviously. But so now there's a ridge. Outside of those fields, there's a ridge that runs down to what we call the low meadow, which is in the middle of pretty much in the middle of the property. So there might be one house in this area, and I'll show you in a minute where that is. This is further down that same ridge, but off to the right, there's a cleared meadow where it's, very nice wildlife, and the deer love it in there off to the right. And then this is the low meadow, which at one time we thought might be a pond, but they won't let you put a pond in a wetland. So it's going to stay just like that. Moving along, one more view looking back. And then there's this higher view, which, just to get oriented, there's the farmhouse, his 220 Brown Road, our barn. And from this view, so that we are showing one house in this maple grove inside that tree cover. The west line stays all clear. One house down here in that long ridge, but this entire field is open, and you probably would see one house there, and I don't think you'd see this one, and one right in there in the woods. This is an area out back we call the garden. Ralph and Lisa Turner farmed it for 5 or 6 years, Laughingstock Farm. And then along this side of it, there's a row of stone posts. These are all lying down. I haven't had a chance to get them straightened up yet, but this is one of them. And just to show you that I love these things, they're my friends out there. And that's looking up at Ken and Marcia Barrington's house. That row of posts, and those would be, nothing happens in that field. There'd be one driveway coming through back to the 2 houses I mentioned. And that's all pretty good hay right now. There's a few more views of the stone posts. They're in 3 different locations, and I work hard to keep the equipment away from them because they're very brittle, as you know. So back to the map, just to point out, so these are the trails that we've been making. All the trails are at least 10 feet wide. So all those red lines are trails, and some are quite long, 400 to 600 feet, and these are shorter, but this is a little half-mile loop right there. So the surveyor laid them out and they measured at 2.4 miles of trails, and that's not including any trails that go through the field. So there's, I guess I'm trying to demonstrate that I've spent a lot of time on the property, and think I like it as much as anybody does. So some of them get names. This is Christmas Tree Alley. This takes you down to what we call a triangle. This runs at the far end. This goes from the low meadow. You could see 220 just in the trees back there in the winter. This takes you down towards the Beaver Dam from the garden. Two others out in the middle, more in the middle of the property. The one on the left is one of the new ones we just put in the Poland Range Road. So the first couple of years, they're not as nice as they get after a few years of TLC, and just, the things grow into these areas that we had to cuff down when we went through with, Eric Wentworth's machine. They start to look like that pretty quickly. This is the brook standing at the Brown Road. A couple more views as you get a little further downstream. Those are the meanders. That's just up above what we call the Beaver Dam. And that's the Beaver Dam itself right there. I've seen him once this spring and one small cutting, but there were much bigger ones last fall. And I named some of the trees. Well, this is our big hackmatack Tamaracro American Larch, I like to say. And these are Three Sisters, a picnic spot on that west side trail. One more historical photo. That the guy looks like Albert Blackstone is actually Albert Blackstone's father, Albert Blackstone Sr. And Burr Libby on the horse, and that young guy in 1957 is me. So trying to tie it back to the neighborhood. So I'm going to turn this over to Peter, who's going to take us through the technical aspects.
Maybe you can bring down more chairs for Cody.
All right, good evening. My name's Peter Beagle. I'm a landscape architect with Land Design Solutions, which is a small site planning and landscape architectural firm in Cumberland. Been working with Jim on this project for quite a number of months now. Jim just provided you with a great personal history and description of the land, like, only someone that's walked that land for 75 years can do. My role has been to take Jim's knowledge of the land and help gather the other pieces of the puzzle and information through the regular sources as laid out in your conservation subdivision ordinance. The information that we gathered, we worked with Owen Haskell Surveying. They provided a boundary survey and picked up many existing conditions, as you saw in some of Jim's plan. We had the wetlands delineated, streams identified, a vernal pool investigation, checked FEMA mapping for floodplains, looked at USDA soils, looking for prime farmland of state importance, drainage capabilities, hydric soils. We looked at, contacted the Maine Natural Areas Program for botanical features and plant communities, contacted the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife for essential habitats, threatened and endangered species. We contacted the Maine Historic Preservation Commission with photos of the old farmhouse, and because we're near the east branch of Chandler Brook, the could be archaeological interest. We had the surveyor put in LiDAR topography, 2-foot contours, so we can get see the slopes of the land. We walked the land. We picked out unique physical features, which could be trails, trees, like Jim said, the Three Sisters, those large oaks, the granite posts, an old well, stone walls, and then spent quite a bit of time looking at views into the site and out of the site. Or I say quite a bit of time, but Jim pretty much has those already in his mind. So it's just a matter of transposing those from mind to paper. So I'm going to, so the plan set that was submitted consisted of these, of seven plans. This is another kind of context diagram that I just wanted to go through first. So we have the Brown Road, and I'm moving my little pointer along here. So we have the Brown Road up here. We have 240, which is the farmhouse that Jim talked about. We have 220, which is a more recent little house. Those two parcels, while owned by Jim, are not part of this project parcel or the project that we're doing. So then we have the project parcel, which is 127 acres, fronting on the Poland Range Road down here, and frontage over here, and this little strip over here on the Brown Road. Then we have the East Branch Chandler Brook hugging this side over here. We've got Libby Road that comes up down here. We've got Hollowell Road over here. And on this side of the Brown Road, we've got the town of Durham. The scale that we're dealing with, 127 acre parcel, is not easy to make legible and have on one plan sheet. Well, it's nice to have the legend and information on the plan sheet you're looking at. At this point, we just do not have room for that. So this first plan sheet has information about the parcel. It's got zoning information. It has dimensional requirements. It has road standards. It has the conservation standards. We ran through the net residential acreage calculation provided in the ordinance here. We did the net residential density calculation based on that area, that residential area. We calculated the wetland areas. We calculated the steep slopes. We have the existing conditions notes, which says Owen Haskell did the surveyor, Mark Sensei Geologic did the vernal pools and the wetland delineation, the topography from GIS. We use FEMA flood mapping for the floodplain, which is only associated with the East Branch Chandler Brook. There's a little floodplain, and there was no flood elevation given. It doesn't really have much impact on our project because there's such a steep embankment there that where we are is 20 feet above that, the brook. We have our soils legend, and this, if you read, it'll say poorly drained farmland of statewide importance, or it calls out, gives the abbreviation and then the definition. And then we have a legend down here. And the important things I think to remember that you will see as we scroll through here, we have the soils information is this brown right here. We have the little wetland symbols right here. Slopes of 20% or greater than 20, in excess of 20%. And just to put that in context, 20% slope would be a 1 foot change in elevation in 5 feet. So if you were, it sometimes sounds steeper than it might be. If you were building wanted to have a walkout basement on your house, you're transitioning down, 7 or 8 feet across your house, you probably have a 3-to-1 slope or maybe even greater. 3-to-1 slope is usually what they say is mowable or maintainable. So it's nice to not exceed that. And then we have over here, we have these little purple viewshed arrows. So this is our Owen Haskell survey where they've picked up the topography or these little lines you see. You can see all Jim's trails through here. They're the parallel dashed lines. You can see the wood line where forest trees are. You can see the property boundary is the heavier line. So that's kind of the first layer of our base. This next page was we took the information in the ordinance on the net residential density calculation, acreage, and this shows the wetlands, which are in the blue with the wetland symbol, and then the steep slopes, which are this little symbol over here. And this table up top runs through the calculation. The total amount of land, 127 acres, what we've subtracted for roads and drives, what we've subtracted for surface water, which was wetlands. We subtract those out, and we divided that by the RB zone allowed 90,000 square feet. And you end up saying, okay, well, this we would be allowed 59 lots by that calculation. And that was really the sole purpose of this plan. I was finding it hard to communicate that graphically so that it was legible anywhere else. So got its own sheet. Then as we got into the conservation subdivision ordinance, there's a requirement for a lot density map. And the lot density map has its own criteria, and you need at least 90,000 square foot lots. You need 300 feet of frontage. So this lot density map is really all about, okay, if that's your criteria, how could you put, or how would you put roads through here, and how would you divide this into all lots? You're not looking for open space. You're just looking for the lot density. Using this method, we came up with 37 lots. So this next plan is a compilation of all Jim's knowledge, the survey, Mark Sensei Geologic, vernal pools, wetlands, slopes, views. So this is a compilation of everything, and it's very busy, but it is the foundation of what you want to see all those things, so that when you look at this, you're saying, okay, well, we got to stay out of here, or we have nice views here. And this is what informs how we go about figuring out what on this parcel are the priorities to preserve, and what on this parcel are the best house sites, and how does that all come together. So some of the things to point out here are we have our one vernal pool on this site is up in this corner. We have East Branch Chandler Brook running down along this bottom. You can see some of the embankment. The closer these contour lines are together, the steeper the slope. So by seeing these little shading areas, you can kind of see where embankments are. We have the heavy green lines, which show you where vegetation is and what's open in field. We have our little purple arrows, which when you're walking around down here, you're saying, boy, this is a great view down into the brook. Great views into the site from Brown Road. Great views up here looking through this the Stetson Farm, the original parcel, into the land beyond. We have our soil lines indicating the different soil types. So we're looking through that whole compilation of information. And that takes us to our next step. And the next step, you're looking at the concept plan here, but the next step was Jim and I locating the house sites. So before any roads, before anything else, we have the plan that we have this plan, and Jim and I are standing over the plan, and he's knows this place like the back of his hand, and he's saying, you know, that would be a great spot for a house. That would be a great spot for a house. And we go through here, figuring out the places we need to stay out of and where houses could be. And once we have placed these potential house locations, then we say, okay, well, how's a road going to fit in there? Work with the land, work with what we're trying to preserve. How are we going to get a land in there to access these different house sites? And so we sketch a road in. And then once we have the road in, then it's okay. Now we need, you know, lots of a certain size, frontage, shape. How are these going to work? Does that house site, can we actually get a lot around that? Or is that, you know, just not going to work? Do we need to shift this over here? So we go through this whole process of figuring out how that may lay out. And what you're looking at here is what we came up with as our potential concept. And what this gives us is we end up with preservation of our, you know, stream area down here and the land around it, floodplain area. So this is all preserved. And not only is it preserved, but all these folks along here have an awesome view of down there into the wooded brook. And this is all set aside. So no one's ever going to be building over here. What you have one of those lots and one of those homes, you know, and that's yours. That's what's happening down there isn't going to change. So, and we come off Brown Road, weave this in. We have our first, you know, 150 foot line where no lots can be closer to a public road than that 150 feet. And then the next line, red line here, is the 200-foot line, and no homes can be closer to Brown Road than that. The other line that you see around here, that's a 75-foot perimeter buffer. So we wind our road in here, and all the time the things that we're preserving, we're staying out of those agricultural fields over here, we're staying away from the brook over here, and then there are 4 intermittent streams on this parcel. So they run, you know, part of the time, but they're still have a DEP jurisdictional streams, and they have a 50-foot or 75-foot no disturb setback. So, so with the wetlands, and we're trying to do have as little wetland impact as possible. So that's what cut us off right in here with our lot development. And so instead of continuing to loop that road through, we've created a dead end with a cul-de-sac. And that road is approximately 1,230 feet long. Moving up to the top here, so there are nice fields right in here, 2 great house sites tucked in here. To access those, instead of trying to run a road through the agricultural field or through this area, trying to keep as low impact as possible, there's enough frontage on Brown Road for 2 lots. And what we're proposing here is a shared driveway to those 2 lots. So they are not connected to the rest of this road network. Then we leave the whole middle open here, and we come off Poland Range Road on this side. And we have the one entrance off Poland Range Road, and that takes us inside the wooded area. So this whole area over here is all heavily wooded. And again, we have our 150-foot setback line for lots. We have the 200-foot setback line for any buildings. We wind this road down to this cul-de-sac down here, and this is approximately 1,382 feet. from beginning to the end here. And again, these lots are all placed so that people have views down into the brook and natural areas. And then over here, we have another road that takes off from this. This road is approximately 1,478 feet from its intersection here to the end. If you measured that road from Poland Range Road, it would be 1,730 feet. And same thing over here. So you've got great views down into the wetland and stream area over here. Over here, you've got great natural area. All these lots, people walk out their door and you're walking onto trails, woods. You've got nature right there at your back door. We've preserved this green all through the middle here, you know, thinking that's could be a very nice wildlife corridor. And what we end up with just over 1,000 square feet. This little wetland right there is our only wetland impact on this 127 acre site. And it's right there. And we could not really figure out a good way to wind that road around there. So that's protecting wetlands was one of our prime things, and out of 127 acres, that's the only impact. This last sheet is just putting these two images side by side, looking at, you know, conservation subdivision on the left, more of a traditional subdivision on the right, and then trying to figure out, you know, what's certainly the conservation subdivision with the open space and the green. As Jim said, that's 79 acres of open space out of the 127 looks pretty appealing. In our application, we said that we'd be looking for a waiver on road length. I think that's section 7.E4 says maximum road length shall be 1,000 feet. The board shall have the ability to grant waiver requests from the maximum length on a case-by-case basis. You know, this parcel at 127 acres is about 2,900 feet long. And, you know, we could, as we did with the kind of traditional type subdivision, connect those roads so we don't have a dead end, but that really, you know, negates everything we're trying to do with the green space and keeping that wildlife corridor. So we would be requesting a waiver from the board for road length that allows us to access these very buildable parcels, which are just, you know, a little bit longer than the 1,000 square feet. We did walk the land and met with the road commissioner, trying to show him what we're thinking, what we're proposing. We met with the fire chief, showed him the plans, went over road lengths, potential fire suppression or water availability, and there are a couple dry hydrants near us, neither of them certified for a couple different reasons, and talked about the need for or just how cisterns might work. So we have that discussion going. All lots would have private wells and private septic systems. As Jim said in his little presentation, he'd be looking to put some sort of an easement on this parcel before it gets sold, preserving those views so that people driving on Brown Road through here will always have that sense of rural character, and that won't be lost. This would not be built out all at once. There would be some sort of phased approach. So you see, you know, X number of lots. These would not all be happening at once. Jim has met with the Maine Farmland Trust staff, as well as the Royal River Conservation Trust, to talk about interest and ownership and stewardship of open space, agricultural land, and just how that might shape up. One of the things that I think this concept really does hit is, when I look at the performance standards for conservation subdivision, and it's really all about rural character and protecting the natural and culturally important resources. I have been through the town's comprehensive plan, and again, there's so much there that's about, how do you accommodate some growth and protect the rural character at the same time? And it's not really an easy question, but we believe this is a good step to trying to do that, hit that, the best balance. And I think, I'm looking at additional criteria that the ordinance talks about, and it talks about the arrangement of roads, lots, dwelling units, utilities will be harmonious with the natural environment and will not harm rural character and surrounding natural resources. And I think, well, this plan seems to, in my mind, do pretty well with that. The next one is conservation subdivision will minimize undue adverse effects on wetlands, vernal pools, stream corridors, significant wildlife habitat, or scenic resources. And again, I think this type of subdivision really is all about that. And I think, this plan, again, is a good step in that direction. And then the number 3, all buffers in the conservation subdivision will protect natural resources and adequately screen new homes from the public road. And I think just the parcel actually, does a lot of our work for us. I mean, this is all heavily wooded. You can drive down Brown Road and look for those, the stakes that Jim had set there at 150 feet and see what you see and envision, homes in there, just what you would see. And then same thing over here. There's a rise here. If you drive by this, you're coming in, his little barn is right down here. You're driving in and up and then back. So, in my mind, you may catch a glimpse of some buildings, but you're going to see, for the most part, fields and woods. We had a couple things as we went through the ordinance and through this design that we weren't quite sure of. And that was, the ordinance talks about not having driveways off a public street. So our 2 proposed lots up here have a driveway off the public street. And again, the reason that we're doing that is we hate to crisscross any of this land with an additional road, and there are 2 beautiful kind of hidden house sites over here. So we hate to give up on 2 beautiful house sites when potentially a driveway up here would take care of that. But I guess looking for board's input on, number 1, does the board actually have a mechanism to allow us to do that? And then, do you want to do that? The other question we had, or another question, was on density. So we showed that plan that went through the math calculation of how we get to 59 units. And then we went through the ordinance talks about preparing the density map. So, the density map shows 37 lots is what we can get. The calculation showed 59. So, and I wasn't quite sure how to sort that out, whether that's just a clear-cut map density. We didn't even need to do the rest of that. Map density lot governs, and that's it. Another question we have is a lot the same as a unit? Because on this conceptual plan right here, we were trying to figure out a way to offer lower cost housing. And the way we did that was to, on 5 of these lots, we show a duplex. So on this plan right here, we show single-family lots, and we show duplexes. So, you know, it is, if you can put a duplex on a lot and it still just counts as one lot, is that how you would count that? Or does a duplex count as 2 units and a unit is the same as a lot? So looking for some guidance on that. And then I guess wondering how the town, how you folks feel about the duplexes. We put them in there from our discussions with town planner, thinking, you know, is there a way to do something lower cost? You put these lots on the market, somebody's gonna, you know, buy it, and we don't really know what they're gonna build, but houses seem to be going for a lot of money. And is there a way to somehow get that cost down? And if you have a duplex, well, that's gonna be a little lower, lower price range, and there could be folks that would appreciate that. So looking for your folks' input on that. And that's really, I think, it in a nutshell. Jim, you have any?
I just a little more on the duplex concept, where in multiple conversations with Tom Ursia, we were, you know, talking about the high cost to develop a lot these days. And I did have a 50-year career in the building business, and to hit any of the the criteria, and you haven't established, you know, Powell has not established a criteria for affordable housing, you know, where, and because the towns that have that, they have a bonus of 2 or 2.4, you know, a ratio for the number of lots, which is a lot, obviously. But we just thought we would stick in 5 of them. And my concept on that is you could not, to hit any of those price points, you wouldn't be able to build custom single-family houses. But if you put in duplexes, and a lot of projects I've built like this, where they're, you know, they're very nice, you know, working with good architects and a good housing manufacturing company, you can create, you know, a 2-bedrooms, 1-story house for, whether it's, you know, an elderly couple in Powell that's selling their big house who wants to stay in town, or if you put in a, you know, 2.5 bedrooms for a young family, that would be a 2-story house. So to see if you could cut those prices, so one, by the efficiency of production, but also by the concept we had discussed was, you have 5 of these duplexes and they become a condominium association within the homeowners association, because you'd have to build them all at once, and you'd worry about, you want to make sure the maintenance on both sides is consistent and that sort of thing. So it'd be smart to have those managed like a condominium. But you know, they could share a septic system, they'd share a well, and they'd share the cost of the house. So that could be, you know, $75,000 or $100,000 just in the lot that you could save that customer. So that's where you know, we're just putting that out there for discussion, because, you know, my expectation is to sell lots. So it's the same, you know, I don't see any income difference, but it might provide some housing at a more competitive level.
Oh, I probably should have said this. So this concept plan that you're looking at shows 36 single-family lots and 5 lots with duplexes. So it shows 41 lots, 5 of those being the duplexes.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I do want to say that I really do appreciate the thought that you guys have put into this project. One thing that everybody here needs to understand is what Mr. Beagle and Mr. Cram are doing is exactly what we're trying to get out of the conservation subdivision ordinance. The other thing everybody needs to keep in mind is that our role as a planning board, whether we disagree or agree with Mr. Cram's plan, he has a right to develop his property as he sees fit. And our role as the planning board is to make sure that it follows the ordinances and that it fits in with the comprehensive plan. So that's what we'll be doing tonight. We do have a few questions for you guys. I do have your questions. I think we can talk about those as well. But I'd like to just go through some of the questions that we might have first, and then we'll go from there. Brian, if you want to just kind of, one of their questions was the lot density aspect. If you want to just go ahead and take over.
Can we go back to the lot density, Mark?
Yeah.
This one?
Yep. So I mean, when we drafted this, the idea was, not to take a square sheet of paper and just try to draw as many lots on as you could, right? I mean, so I think that the two big things I see here are net residential area, right? It's not 90,000 square feet, it's 90,000 square feet of net residential area. So the biggest things on this map are the wetlands and all of the 20-degree slopes, which this just delineates the wetlands, not the 20-degree slopes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got a lot of obvious ones, where like this lot, 90,000 square feet, but it's, just eyeballing it, it's half wetlands. So that wouldn't work. This whole center section is, really 20-degree slopes around the streams. So a lot of those lots, I don't think would really work as well. But the secondary piece is really this has to conform to the minor subdivision, which only allows 600-foot dead end roads, which precludes these roads that are going across and crisscrossing each other.
So you can't have a road longer than 600 feet, is that? So we have almost a 3,000-foot parcel, and you can't, so you would have, and you need 300 feet of road frontage. So.
But is this not a dead end road? Because if it's connecting Brown and Poland.
Yeah, but I mean, when you read, so to do the lot density maps based off the minor subdivision, right? And that minor subdivision only allows 600-foot roads. If we didn't have it, so you could do streets through and through.
That was fine.
Right.
So.
It says that in the ordinance.
And your 300 feet have to come off that new road.
So you potentially, if everything, in best case scenario, you could have 2 lots on each side of your 600 road because you need 300 feet of frontage.
Right, so we need 90,000 square feet, which is 300 by 300, right? So
Yeah.
that basically means to do one road was that 600 feet long, and you're taking your frontage off that 600 feet. So you've got 2 lots on either side. So it's like a box with 4 units. Those 2 front lots are getting 300 square feet. So that would mean you need another 300 square feet along the main road. That's net residential area. So no wetlands. So that would, some of these areas in this corner aren't even usable because you can never get 90,000 square feet from that front lot. So that just starts pushing you further and further up to where you can actually start laying out these lots.
And you also, roads cannot be any closer than 750 feet to each other. Is that right?
So, sorry if I'm interrupting, but we're talking about 2 separate things. We're talking about how to calculate how many houses you put into a conservation subdivision. And so what we're using is the minor subdivision. And then once you calculate that number, then we can figure out the conservation subdivision.
So the 600 feet seems like kind of a problem in trying to get to developable land in here. If we're trying to, put that aside, right? Because I guess we're just talking about the density. So I guess just the 600 on a 127-acre parcel, I guess I'm wondering.
Yeah, so it's really limiting. So I mean, just back of the envelope without having actual surveying maps and being able to calculate this. I mean, I'm coming up with 25 to 30% of what you proposed. So I think, the easiest thing is probably start on the left, right? Can we toggle here? So, there isn't really this map needs to have all the contours. So again, it's gonna be the wetlands you count against in that residential area and the 20-degree slopes, which yeah, it's kind of in here, right? So you've got everything down in the bottom right.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. But if we just start in the left side, in the upper left corner, you've got wetlands and you've got those 20-degree slopes. I mean, if I ballpark that at 200 feet, that takes out that first 200 feet. You can't get a lot in there, right? So you've got 1,993 feet overall on that of road frontage. If you back out 200 feet, just round it down to 1,800 feet, right? So for every 600-foot road that goes in, you need 600 feet of actual road frontage on the current road. So that would say you can get 3 roads in, and off each road, you can do 4 lots, which would give you up to 12 off that frontage. But again, that's assuming that you've got the right net residential area. So, bottom left, maybe. You've got, the slopes don't start until probably more than 300 feet back, but again, that's just eyeballing it. So your first one works, you can get a second one in, and that one can go back as far as you want. So you've got these slopes in here, but you can just pick up your 90,000 square feet and you can go back and you can make it a 5-acre lot versus 2-acre lot.
So really, your net residential density, unless you have a ton of road frontage, that's kind of clear. I mean, you can't take advantage of any buildable land inside the 600.
Right, and that's been the issue with the zoning in Pownell for years, is that it always contemplated these 600-foot roads. So you would have all these houses clustered up on the street. You've had these small front lots, and you could have larger rear lots, but you weren't really pushing in to the center of the lot. And we've got, I don't know what the average lot size in Pownell is, but it's probably 30, 40 acres. So it's all been dictated by road frontage and pushing everything to the street, which is why we did the conservation subdivision, to work with the land and allow you to go with longer roads, work with the contours, do smaller lots and get that cluster effect. But we wanted to be net neutral effectively. So we took basically the old rules under that minor subdivision and said, how many could you do based on the old rules to come up with how many you can fit using the new construct. So I think you have to really go back to the drawing board and figure out your net residential area. But, my rough math is you can probably get 11 lots off that left side. Because I think up in this corner with the wetlands and the steep slopes, you're not going to get 90,000 square feet usable here, but you could still put a road in. You could do a lot back here that's pretty large, even though you've got all these slopes here. And then, so ballpark, it's 11, I think there.
And on the other side, even
less, right? So I think the issue there is, again, looking at that map, right? You've got wetlands starting in the bottom right. It's all wetlands. And you go to 20-degree slopes. You've got 20-degree slopes there. And then keep in mind, the road itself going in can't have more than a 10-degree grade or 10% slope. So, it's questionable whether you can I don't think you can get a road in here where you're currently proposing in the other division, the conservation division.
Yeah,
That's less than 10%
yeah.
slope.
Yeah. Well, we would make, if it was, we're the first X number of feet at 3%, and then we would regrade to go up. But that's not part of, looking at this.
Well, that's the question. Again, so I think we'd have to understand that, right? Is where can you get a road in? Can you squeeze it just below that 220 Brown Road?
Yeah.
Right, because you've got 20-degree slopes in there. And I don't know how many feet that is. So I think at best, if you put a road up close to 220, you've got 132 feet already that's coming in. So you have to go out to 432 feet. Right? So you need at least 50 feet of frontage. Well, sorry, no, you would be buying your 300 feet off this new road. So I think you get one lot potentially above it, behind 220, and probably one below.
Hey, Brian, what I'm thinking is, since there seems to be a pretty wide disparity between the proposed houses and our interpretation of the ordinance, I'm suggesting that maybe the applicant may need to revisit the number of houses you can put in. with the ordinance. We do have Ben from North Star that should be able to help some with interpretation, I'm assuming. Or the CEO could help, sorry, between those two parties, we should be able to work out how many we think
Okay,
you can
Sure.
put in, but I think we might need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and clarify exactly how many houses can be put in subdivision.
okay. Yeah, we clearly did not understand that part.
I do want to stress, I do appreciate how you guys have approached this project, assuming that you'll be back. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of how you're trying to preserve sight lines and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's anything else that
Well,
we can really do right now.
yeah.
Is there another question that you have?
Well, I guess any of the other questions we had would be, you know, what you think about the duplexes, what you think about the shared driveway. Some of those other things would be good to know. So but should we sort out the lots and our back, we have answers to those. And I guess any other, you know, public comment would be good since everybody's here.
I don't know if depending on ultimately what the plan is, I don't know where the shared driveway might fall into the project. Does anybody have a comment on that?
Just a comment. With going by the ordinance, again, like you said, driveways aren't allowed to be off the town lawn roads. Plus, there is the fact that for a development road, you need 750 feet, I think it is, of road frontage. So that really, that corner through the ordinance won't work.
You mean, you need how much? I thought it was 75 feet of frontage for a lot, no?
It's 750 feet between, I think, between subdivision roads on the same side. So that would be, I guess that was one of the questions. If we had a subdivision road coming in off Brown Road, and that was just a driveway, although I think that's 750 feet away. I think it's, I know that the ordinance says that you're not supposed to have that driveway. And I guess, so my question was, does the board actually have the ability to waive that if they wanted to? Or do they not even have that ability?
I think the earlier question is, can you even put, well, first you'd have to get 300 feet of frontage to do anything there, right, for a lot?
Well, so if you said, okay, whatever we figure out the net residential density and we're allowed so many lots, then you're dealing with the conservation ordinance lot frontage, right? And I think that's 75 feet. Is that 75 feet or?
It's 75.
Yeah, so then it's 75 feet. So then we have enough frontage there for, that's 150 feet or 150 feet plus. So we actually have the frontage for.
This isn't really part of the subdivision. This is like a little add-on, the way I'm seeing it, as an addition to, rather than being part of perhaps of the overall subdivision.
It's this yellow area right up.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. So no, they would be part of the.
No, what I'm saying is I understand that you want that to be part of the subdivision.
Yes.
My question is that it doesn't really seem to be part of the subdivision. It's just it's like a totally different part. And so would it really fall under the 75 feet of road frontage requirements for those two houses that are kind of set off?
Well, is it a new road or an existing road? I guess that's, you got to dig into that.
Is it a driveway? Is it a road?
Yeah, no, it would just be, what we would be looking at is just a shared driveway. So it's not a road,
Right.
just a driveway. They'd have a Brown Road address. And And I guess the common linkage is, I mean, you've got the open space all around, all around, all these different lot groupings. So, you know, just because this isn't on one of the roads that goes in there, I guess I still think of it as part of this subdivision. They'd be part of, you know, whatever associations needed to maintain open space, depending on what happens there, or stormwater facilities, or whatever, whatever is needed.
In the conservation subdivision, under 908.225B, it states all conservation subdivisions shall have at least 650 feet of public road frontage.
Yeah, so, I mean, so you need 650 feet for this whole subdivision, right? I mean, we've got thousands of feet, really, right? If you look at Old Pownell Road and Brown Road. So I'm thinking that we need 600 feet for this subdivision, not per house or lot or anything else. That as long as we have 600 feet somewhere, then we meet that criteria. Right? That's what I was thinking.
It's 149 and a quarter, right? So, I mean, it depends on the technicality too, right? So it's 75 feet, it's not quite there. Zooming in.
Yes, and what,
Right.
yeah, so what we would,
We shift the
sorry,
lot line.
yeah, right, because we're gonna shift the lot line to grow that Stetson farm. It's gonna come in a little here, we're gonna we're gonna change that lot line a little bit, and like the next parcel down, we're gonna give them a little more land behind, so they have a little, so we're gonna shift those lot lines around slightly.
Yeah, I think for us, though, it's kind of two questions. Can you really use that corner for the lot density map, which I think is unclear? And then secondarily, once you are applying the agreed lots, can you utilize that frontage? If you have 150 feet and take 75 and 75. Right.
I think the third thing is the driveway for a public road.
Right, right.
You talk about limiting the number of lots based upon the minor subdivision. But my understanding of the intent of the conservation subdivision we were allowing as many lots as could have been built under the previous ordinance, which is the major subdivision, not the minor subdivision. So really, isn't it more like there's 5 lots allowed on a 600-foot road, potentially, not 40 lots on 600, or on a, yeah.
I think it was always off a 600-foot road, you only get 4 because you were using the frontage of that new road only to calculate your lots.
But I'm saying the previous version, we've had subdivisions of 5.
Right, but you were using
Units.
other road frontage, you have more than 600 feet of road frontage.
That's correct. Yeah. So, I think regardless, the applicant needs to revisit, I think, the number of lots that they're going to propose. I think also, getting back to lot 13 and 14, to be honest, if that's the desire of the applicant to put 2 lots there on a shared driveway, I would suggest just submit a waiver. So I'm not going to say yay or nay to that. I don't think the board is prepared to do that. So I would submit a waiver on that item.
Okay,
As far as duplexes go, and does that count as 1 or 2 lots? I'll let the CEO maybe address that question.
I didn't see that addressed in the conservation subdivision. In the land use ordinance, you have to have an additional 60,000 square feet for a double lot or duplex. So I think there should be some type of equation there on maybe scaled down a little bit, but I think the reason why the ordinance requires that is because of the septic system usage and, you know, the things like that. So I think, you know, there's a reason why there's Powell requires more acreage for a double house, be it a duplex or two houses on a.
And so I guess, so I'm assuming if the conservation ordinance doesn't give a, lot size, I mean, I guess we'd be looking for someone town-wise to come up with what that number would be for us.
Go ahead, Ben.
So, Ben Smith, North Star Planning. I've been sitting and listening because, we did get a copy of the plans a couple weeks ago. We were kind of in a holding pattern and, you know, we're, officially hoping to be under contract with the town for July 1st. So we're here tonight to learn about the project. I'm here tonight to learn about the project. I think that, I have also been kind of listening and observing because I need to go back and revisit some of these provisions of the ordinance that are being cited this evening as far as the methods of calculating the total number of lots that would be allowed on the property. I think that they're very fundamental questions, obviously, to what the ultimate design of the project would look like. In general, the number of the what goes on the lots isn't typically under planning board review. The boards are reviewing the division of land, the subdivision application. I think if you were going to keep your options open, essentially to have the ability to put a duplex or multiple homes on a single lot, you would be required to have additional land area. That is an interesting concept. I honestly don't know, again, what the ordinance would say about like how much additional land is required in a conservation subdivision to do that. So some of these questions that the board has, you may not be able to answer tonight. Some of the questions that you have, the board may not be able to answer tonight, but I think that they're all important questions to keep track of, and we probably need to have some conversations over the coming weeks to figure out what some of these things are going to mean for the ultimate design of the subdivision.
Okay, so put that one in the kind of the hold category.
Sounds fair
Okay.
as well. Thank you so much, Ben.
The, I mean, yeah, the duplex piece, sounds like CEO is saying, the concern is more on the septic side in having room for that. Ben, you don't have to answer tonight, but I mean, one thing I'm interested to get your insight on at some point is, you know, how does, you know, some of the rules being passed in Augusta might relate to what we're trying to do in a conservation subdivision when it comes to duplexes or ADUs and things like that.
That may be a conversation for another night.
Yeah.
Yes, shoot, Marcia.
I have a couple nit questions and then some bigger questions. I guess one thing is I noticed that the ordinance says when lots get to be half an acre or smaller, they need a multiple septic system. But it sounds like these duplexes, the 5 duplexes are going to have also have a combined septic and well system. So that's sort of a whole other question for the CEO. If you're having like we can't answer tonight, but it's a subdivision within a subdivision almost.
So is the intent to have like you know, each duplex would share?
Yes,
Or
correct.
is it all the duplexes share?
Right now, we're thinking each duplex would have its own. Yes.
Thank you. Some of these questions are more for us to think about, like at what point do we involve Durham in this process, since there's a shared road? And I also noticed that for vernal pools, you're supposed to make 3 visits within the breeding period of amphibians, and it looked like Mark only did 1, so that might be a stumbling point with the DEP. I believe there's a significant vernal pool there based on the blue salamander eggs.
Yeah, well, he found enough in his one, I can't, I'd have to look at his
Yeah.
thing, but if he found enough in one visit, then, he hit the threshold, so, filled out the paperwork and we just considered it a significant.
Um, I'm wondering about the floodplain zone process, because intellectually, I understand that there's enough slope that it shouldn't be a danger, but you still have to go through the floodplain permitting process.
Well, I think we're out of the floodplain, so, I don't think we have any. I mean, I don't know I guess I don't know what the,
Feet of the floodplain, that's why I was wondering it. And there are new floodplain maps that, which are pretty much the same. It's Chandler Brook
Yeah.
and it's surrounding the floodplain.
yeah, well, I can definitely make a note and, look into that. Said, I know we're 20 feet above the,
In
I mean,
elevation.
yeah, that's all flat, lowland, and we're way up the bank.
When we're talking about steep slope, I couldn't find S21 on the map, so can you I think it just needs a better label, steep slope 21.
Oh, okay. yeah.
And on your application, first of all, I understand that on page 5 of 9, those boxes are not aligned. There's 4 boxes and 5 questions, so we need to fix that on our end. And then on your project narrative,
Okay,
under site investigations, under the agencies, letters from these agencies, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down, say they do believe proposed conservation subdivision will have negative impacts, which I think is not what you.
where did I say that?
Yeah, I think there's a word missing there.
Yeah.
Although I just want to add that the letters do not comment on the conservation subdivision themselves. They just say that there's no impact to resources under their regulatory approval. So I think they're not really commenting on this plan.
Correct, yeah, they haven't seen this plan. They
Right.
got a map of where the site is, and I said, can you please check your data and let us know if there are any concerns?
Yeah. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Did anybody else have any comments they want to make at this point?
I'll just make one comment because you mentioned waivers on the road length. And I just want to go back to Brian's point that the reason that we put in the 1,000-foot was not so we could have longer roads and lots around those roads, but that we could push the lots that would be required but would be allowed in the 600-foot back into the property. So all of these roads being over 1,000, that already is a little bit counter to the ordinance in the way it was written. So I'd ask you to look at that as you're looking at the 600 feet in terms of calculating that.
Yeah, good point. So I think at this stage, normally the next stage would be to move towards a preliminary plan. But I think we should probably see another concept plan, so
Yes.
we could chat about that and maybe come up with a good resolution. If that sounds fair
Yeah,
to
no,
you.
agreed, yes.
Yes, very good. So we'll conclude that portion. Like I said to everybody in the beginning, we do have a couple more business items. We will try to get right through this and then allow folks to speak. The next item of business is the CEO update. Tim, do you have anything?
I really do not have a lot to report, so we can move it along.
Perfect. We do have a revised list of planning board members, which we've all received. Yeah, yeah.
I want to get up on the board right away as we have the old planning board procedures posted in town hall and on the website that has the town planner in it. So right now, it's a draft because I didn't understand whether there was going to be some kind of collaboration between the CEO and North Star and how an applicant, what do they do when they want to talk to somebody? And do we know that yet?
So right now, the thought is from the select board that Bill will stay on as a deputy CEO. And also he will be mainly working as the go-between between North Star and the planning board to field questions and get answers. And, I'll be helping him out as my role as CEO as well. So you'll have somebody on town staff that will be there to help you negotiate and answer some of your questions and get Star's answers back to you.
So, maybe I'll give you this to mark up as you understand it.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Under communications, we have the Community Day, May 17th.
That's good.
Oh, that's it. Just had to say that. All right.
Just like we have to say that we had Community Resiliency Partnership Workshop, which was very well attended, and I'd urge the planning board to look at, there's a presentation on the website as well as there will be a report about what the town members who were there felt were important priorities, infrastructure being one of the ones in terms of resiliency against climate change and other factors.
And where is that?
The presentations on the website, I think I put a link in my email to you guys.
Okay. But if the public was interested in it, where would they find it?
I think it's
Is it on the website?
on the website.
It's in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the agenda.
Okay.
I have one more communication to add. I received a letter from Ben McDonald and his family, which I received on May 20th. I did send it to the planning board members.
Received.
And then I did the newsletter. You saw it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Marcia. Okay, so what I'd like to do is open it up. Are there any Durham residents here? No? Okay, so technically, as a Durham resident, you're not allowed to speak, but we can vote to allow you to speak, which we will. But I really need to let any interested Pownell residents speak first. As far as the rules for this little segment, I would like to try and keep comments brief, limiting to a max of 5 minutes. So if we can just, you want to come up and say your piece, just because there's a lot of people here and a lot of people probably would like to make a comment. These are for comments only. You're not to ask the applicant any specific questions. You can pose questions to us, the board, but we're really not here to answer questions. We just want to listen to what everybody has to say. And we're ready to go. So if whoever wants this, did you have a just procedural question? Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. Yes, sir. So I'll just need everybody to step up to the mic, state your name, where you live, And then a brief comment, please. Thank you.
That's you or the audience?
You're talking to us.
Okay. Mike Whitney, Elmwood Road. Been involved in this kind of project in the town for as long as we've been here, which is not that long, 28 years. My wife was head of the Pownell Conservation Commission along with Elise Hopkins. Our family and some other families in town here preserved the Knight Farm, preventing it from being subdivided, further subdivided. My wife is in charge of the Bradbury Mountain Corridor Project. Myself, I've been in the land solutions business, if you want to call it that, for 57 years. We have done projects from the Appalachians to Nantucket to Stamford, Connecticut, to all rural Maine. I want to commend the town for adopting this ordinance because things were willy-nilly getting chopped up without sufficient planning. This plan, I want to thank Mr. Cram and his land planner, is one of the nicest I've seen, and I've managed the implementation of dozens of these. And so that's my only comment. It's well thought out. They found the house sites. They found the places where the views were. They took care of the conservation elements, a lot more data and a lot more scientific versus precision than back in my day. You know, we have a staff, my company does, of 25 people like this young man. And that's what we do. And so when I see this coming out of Pownell, that's a good, positive thing. End of statement.
Thank you. Thank you. One thing I did fail to mention is I am going to put a hard stop to comments at 9 p.m. So that's the reason for trying to keep comments short. Anybody else have a comment?
Hi there. Michael Baumser, 206 Poland Range Road. And you'll have to bear with me because I am not accustomed to speaking in public. We are an abutting neighbor. As the plan is drawn, the entrance on Poland Range Road seems to be either directly across from our driveway or close to our driveway. So even though it seems like this plan as drawn will kind of go straight into some pretty serious modifications, I do want to bring up maybe just some general questions about infrastructure, the tolerance of a road like Poland Range. When you reference the comprehensive plan, it seems to say there's a recorded traffic flow of about approximately 110 vehicles a day. And in kind of just referencing another subdivision, I guess it's one of the active plans, they did note a reference of predicted traffic trips. I think that was a 4-unit subdivision, and they were predicting 40 traffic trips possibly a day. So something here where there's 30 or more units, we're talking a possibility of well over 300 traffic trips a day coming out of this road. And already Poland Range Road, as well maintained as it is, requires a pretty frequent attention. So we have a lot of concern about the activity that's outside. They've seemed to be, they've put a lot of focus on the view sheds for their residents. They've put a lot of focus on how to keep their residents kind of contained, the quality impacts that their residents will have, but they didn't mention a lot about the impact outside in the community. So imagining that the density of this arrangement will change, one of the things I did was look across a map surrounding this site to see how would you gather up 46, 42 homes in this area, and you have to go out 2 square miles to collect those 40-something residents. So if you were to apply kind of the rural character of this area of Pownell, it would, result in a density on this lot somewhere, off of Poland Range of, 5 to 7 homes, not 30 plus. So I just hope as we proceed that we really consider that not just the surrounding area concealing what's going on inside preserves the character of Pownell, but what's going on inside, that it matches or blends well with the area. Yeah. I don't know if I had anything else, and that was one of the major. We did want to mention, about that this being the first, or, a first subdivision of this kind, that we are careful about the precedent that we set. So that in the future, we're not stumbling over issues that accidentally kind of snuck through. And so I also had a question about abutting neighbor notifications about this meeting. I didn't know if the board has a requirement that we were notified somehow by the applicant about this meeting.
I think you should have been notified that there was a subdivision going in, but not necessarily of the meeting.
Of the meeting.
Is that correct? Yeah.
That happens later in the application process. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Anybody else interested in making a comment? So state your name and where you're from, and then we'll,
Kate Day, 143 Poland Range Road. I'm in a butter.
oh,
And I'm a member of the select board, but today I'm speaking strictly as a resident and a butter to this project. I think that scope is way beyond something that town infrastructure can handle at this moment. And it also has a huge effect on our lifestyle on Poland Range Road. People walk their dogs up and down the road. Lots of people ride horses up and down the road, and it's a lovely dirt road with farms all around. It will be greatly impacted by the traffic and the increase in residents in the area. For me personally, it would be life-changing to have this come in. Thank you.
thank you.
My name is Gouverneur Miller. I go by the nickname Vivi. My address is 160 Poland Range Road. I am also in a butter. And I want to say thank you. That is a beautifully thought out concept. That said, I am concerned, well, actually, before I do that, I never received any kind of notification. You have my address wrong, and the address that's listed with the town is the one that should be used, but we never received notification of this. But as an abutter, two things I'm concerned about. The first one would be how the wells would be affecting the water table for those of us, the rest of us are all on well water too. The second thing would be how would all those septic systems and their leach fields also affect the water tables, the creek, and all of us. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Sorry, this is not for you guys, it's for the internet. So I'll start speaking louder. I apologize. Could, yeah, just go ahead and open up a window. Go ahead.
My name is Joy O'Clair. I'm an abutter. I live in Durham. I'm
Pownell residents first.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I've got to kick you off the mic. We'll come back to you, I promise.
Bob Van Milligan, Hollowell Road, 891 Hollowell Road. I'm also a member of the Conservation Commission. And I had a number of concerns, many of which were mentioned already. In terms of the aquifer, just the level of water that would be used by 40 wells even within the development concerns me. And it also concerns me that people who abut the area or people surrounding areas might have to re-drill their wells if the water level drops from 40 individual wells being added. The capacity of the soils for the septic systems, if we have 40 more septic systems in that area, is that going to exceed what that soil can withstand? The increased traffic was already mentioned, but not just on the Poland Range Road, but I'm also thinking of the Libby Road, which is also not paved all the way up to the Tuttle Road, and the increased traffic on Hollowell Road and Brown Road as well. And then the last thing was just the increase in pollution, which is completely not intentional, I'm sure, by any of the residents or the planners or anybody else, but just the noise pollution, the light pollution, and the air pollution just from all this vehicular traffic. In the ordinance for the mobile home parks that we looked at recently, Article 12, page 7, they talked about it, if you had a 40 trailers in a mobile home park, that would increase the amount of traffic by 200 vehicles per day. And then you look at how few roads there are. Where would all those cars go? Would we need stoplights? Would we need more stop signs? That's going to, again, create a difference in the way that we sort of live life in Pownell. And then last, just as a Pownell resident, I'm worried about tax increases. If we're looking at, yes, we would have additional revenue from property taxes. That's a good thing for that concern. But I'm also looking at whether that's going to be outstripped by the demands for services, increased tuition for the number of children attending school, increased costs for garbage pickup, police presence. What are we going to do there? What about fire and rescue? Are we going to need more resources there? And road maintenance and potential paving of all these other roads that are unpaved now, would that be a requirement because of all the increased traffic? So those are all questions I have. I do want to add, though, that I do think that your concept of this with the conservation planning was wonderful. I'm just worried about the number of units and the impact, the negative impact that would have on the population of Pownell. That's it.
My name is Judy Hopkins. I live at 118 Poland Range Road in the Goddard house. This was originally the Goddard Road. My house is probably, 20 feet from the road. And people go really fast on Poland Range Road. It's a straightaway and the dust is absolutely horrible. My whole backyard is dusty in the spring, this time of year. People fly down there. Now, I'm looking at this plan, and it's saying 28 lots will dump onto Poland Range Road. So if any of those are the duplexes, I don't know, 28 lots, 2 cars per family, that's 56 cars on my road. And it's terrible. The school buses, no, it's really bad. And who would want to drive on this road in the spring? I've gotten stuck up to my running boards. It's terrible. Can you imagine 56 people? Luckily, Matt was there to pull me out. But this is serious. You can't get there from here, dear, with all those people.
Anybody else? Thank you for keeping the comments relatively brief.
Russ Schmidt, 58 Poland Range Road. 58? 36, yeah. A couple places there. Well, a couple of them, that's why. You guys did a great job on the plan. It looks great. My compliments to Mr. Graham and gentlemen. I too, actually, anybody that's traveled Poland Range realizes that that infrastructure is woefully destroyed. And Matt does a fabulous job. There's a grader there almost every week. So I don't know, this is probably beyond the planning board, but that road is going to need some serious infrastructure. And it's going to cost, and it's going to come from someplace, and to sustain that. And also, the other comments that the road character will significantly change, but that's progress, but it will significantly change. That's a lot of vehicles. And like Judy said, her house is 20, and the dust is crazy too. So I'm back a little bit further, but still, great design. Hope you guys can work something out. You get your tasks, and thank you for volunteering for it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Matt. Keep it brief, Matt.
Yeah, I had a whole slew of things to go over, but everybody's pretty much hit them. One thing that I think that the board should kind of quantify and consider wholeheartedly would be the number of students that this is going to put into the school system. And I dug around quite a bit, GPCOG, and trying to find in this area of Maine, how many kids per household in a subdivision do go into the school system. Now, 20 years ago, when we were moving out of Cumberland to come here, 25 years now, there was a lot of this kind of development going on. And I remember the lucky number was 1.8 kids per household at 41 lots with a few duplexes mixed in. Do we have space in the schools to dump 90 kids? So just thank you. Great job on the plan. Oh, sorry about that. Yep, Matt St. Cyr, Upper Minot Road. Thanks to the board.
You can go ahead if you'd like.
I'm Ken Hinshaw, 222 Libby Road. I too am impressed with the plan, although I cannot even conceive of something like that coming into this area based on the kind of precedent. On Libby Road, you know, there's old time landowners that have 100 acres, and if one of them decides, oh, we'll put one driveway in and put in 40 or 30 or 20 houses, it completely destroys the environment that we all love. And so this just seems to me to be way past the intention of the ordinances to protect the wild areas. That's what drew me here, and it worries me. I'll just pretend to be Mother Nature talking now. The deer, the fox, all the animals that have range in this beautiful, beautiful property are not going to appreciate all these humans coming in and all the pollution that has been mentioned. So I'm severely worried about the precedent for this kind of development in areas tucked away behind the road footage. So I appreciate the sensitivity to that issue that you've talked about.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Sharon Peavy. I'm at 43 Elmwood Road, and I share the sentiment with everyone who has gone before me to speak tonight. And I'd also like to add to that, and that is, like the fellow who's just here before me, a lot of us who live here in Pownell, it's a quality of life choice. And I bet every single person in this room would not have moved to Pownell to live in a subdivision unit like that is proposed. I think folks who are moving, I have two concerns in addition to the concerns before. One is the type of person who would want to move into that subdivision is looking for a different quality of life than the folks who already live here in town. Not saying that it's impossible, but it's something to consider. And then the next thing is, what is the precedent going forward? Is this the beginning of a trend which will completely transform our town into something very different than what it has been what did we just recently celebrate? How many years has the town been? Was it like, when did we just celebrate 200 years or something? Yeah, okay. It could be a radical change moving forward. And what do we want for this town? I mean, yes, population growth is serious. Yes, people make a nice living off developments. But what about the town and what about the people who live in it? What say do we have? And what quality of life we have living here as a resident, having done so for some folks, many generations. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katrina. I live at 269 Sweetser. The last two speakers basically summed up everything that I had to say. I just want to add that being in Pownell, the big umbrella that all the people who have lived here forever, including myself, I grew up in this town and I am back purchasing my parents' estate, that Pownell is proud of being rural and staying rural. And if we allow huge subdivisions and like this, again, what is it going to do for the other like open plots of land here? Cumberland County is really dwindling in how many open fields and farms that there are, and Maine really wants to keep farming alive, especially with younger generations. So do I want to pay excessive taxes here? Absolutely not. But do I want to stay here and bring back farming and keep open pieces of property? We do have a larger set of acreage over on that side of town. We want to keep it alive and not have this set that precedence in that like, oh, okay, we have this big lot over here. Let's throw in some more houses. So that's all. And I am not a public speaker, but I think I got my point across. So thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, I'm Leslie Harlow, Poland Range Road. I think it is a beautiful plan, but putting something like that will take away the integrity we have as a town. We have a town that had a small school system. The kids did great. We got pulled out of that, excuse me, and put into Freeport. So we've lost our little town community that way. And I think this is just going to keep pulling more and more away. Never mind the resources it's going to take and the fact that it will probably tax people right out of the town that have been here a lot longer than me, but not quite as long as my husband. So that's all I got to say.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Doug Stewart, 252 Fickett Road here in Pownell. Thanks for having us all here tonight. I'm a professional wetland scientist and ecologist. Lived here in town for 25 years. I had an opportunity to review the site plan online. Wasn't here for the presentation, I apologize. But I did notice a number of different deficiencies in the plan, things that weren't pointed out. In particular, it should be noted that the East Branch of Chandler Brook is on the TMDL list of a deficiency water with the state of Maine. I feel that this additional development could put additional stress on the East Branch of Chandler Brook. That's something that should be considered. A number of different septic systems, if they are just basic systems without being having additional water treatment, could be an impact to Chandler Brook. I also noted a number of different things because it is my profession with the wetland delineation that was done. It seems like some of the vernal pool surveys were only visited one time during the field survey, and the state guidance requires 2 surveys be completed. And in addition, there was no mention of any wetlands that were regulated by the town of Pownell. It was all focused on the state and federal regulations. So just a couple of initial comments and, look forward to further discussion. Thank you.
Any other comments before we let Durham speak? No? Oh, yes. Come on up.
Thank you. Bear with me, my first town meeting.
Thank you, Planning Committee. Thank you, Mr. Cram, for everything, and thanks for everybody for being here tonight. I wrote something this morning, I'm sorry. I'm Chris Lombard. I live at 58 Poland Range Road. And just shortened it here because as everybody talked before, a lot of the same statements are echoed and everything. I've come to love Poland Range Road very, very much. And it's the feel of it. It's the feel of it. I think if I just went to the last paragraph of this, I'd probably echo it the most. For me, it's just, there's something about Poland Range Road that I felt even before I lived there. I used to drive it before I was a Pownell resident, and I'm a lifelong Mainer from Parsonsfield. And I would hit that road, and I would just, the sound of the gravel, the dirt road, the way the trees arch over the road, the little streams, the way the homes feel like they were grown up out of the land, like in conjunction with respect of the land. And I would always slow down. No matter if I was in a rush, I would slow down to enjoy that road. And I was like, am I really just 25 minutes from Portland? And I used to drive it a lot because I had horses that eventually I kept there at my friend Judy's place. And then I was offered the ability to live there, to own a home there. And I felt so lucky. Felt so lucky to be a part of that. And when I'm on that road and feeling what that feels like to live there and seeing the homes and the new homes that come in, because it's something where when you love something, you want to share it, right? You know, you want to share it. You want everybody to be a part of it. And there's enough room there as well for development and everything else. And so to have that open-hearted feeling of, to invite other people to come and take part in what I loved so dearly about that road before I even lived there, feels really open-hearted, feels really welcoming. And the thing about those new homes is they all immediately, the moment they're built on, whether it's Poland Range or Libby Road, they feel like they were already there. You know, and when you walk by, you get to meet the people that are building it, and they talk to you, introduce yourself, and you feel like, all right, the feeling's growing. The feeling's growing, you know, not lessening by the new people coming in. And so I spent some time, you know, I wrote all these thoughts about, you know, when I read through the 2022, what's it called, the Panel Comprehensive Town Plan, and it's all these statistics and everything else and all of that. And you know, I don't know what's right for an entire town or an entire road, but I do know what's in my heart. And everything that I really sat with this and really looked at it and kept an open mind, but everything in it feels like it goes against everything that 95% of the Pownell residents responded on in a survey. And so for me, I feel like it's about coming here and speaking my heart for that, for Poland Range, for what it is, for what it always was. You know, to honor history in a way that you can also honor growth, I think can be done beautifully. And I also feel like, I guess, it's not just about us, it's about for future generations to come and drive that road and to, in this world, the way it goes, to slow down like I did. You know, to slow down like I did on that road, and before I even lived here, before I was even a Pownell resident, before I was even one of you. Yeah, so I just really appreciate this time for me to speak from my heart like that. I thank you very much, and thank you, everybody.
Any other comments from Pownell residents? Last chance. Okay, Durham, it's your turn. Step on up. We're gonna vote right now. I'm sure everybody is gonna just hand raise. We'll let Durham speak.
I just want to also just say, you know, thank you to the Pownell residents who came out today. We really appreciate it. A lot of meetings, you know, the audience is very small, and it's great to see so many people who love Pownell and want to have their voice heard and want to know what's going on, and also want to encourage folks. I saw people had papers in their hands. Feel free to email us. We will read anything you send us. And also just that, you know, while we have all these people here, encourage you to find out more about the great committees we have, the planning board, the select board. If you really want to make a difference, yes, it takes a little bit of time, but I know there's people in this room have helped shape Pownell the way it is now, which is a wonderful place. And if you want to continue to help shape it into a wonderful place in the future, please, talk to Becky tomorrow or the next day or next week and find out about opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, so just introduce yourself and where you live, please.
My name is Marcia Barrington. I live at 291 Brown Road. I am on the Durham side of Brown Road, and I'm in a butter. And I think we have to look at quality over quantity. I'm not opposed to a development of maybe 5 houses, but the number of houses going in is going to disrupt both towns dramatically. School system, road structure. Brown Road right now, who's going to police these roads? We have no police department in Pownell, no police department in Durham. Trying to get a sheriff or a state patrolman out there is impossible. We complain constantly. People go 60 to 70 miles an hour down Brown Road. Excuse me. We can't even walk my 2.5-year-old grandson in a stroller. It is taking your life in your hands, and it's sad. So I'm not opposed to increasing homes. We all want to live in Pownell, Durham. We do. It's a great place to live. But let's just start with 5. Let's not start with 37. I mean, my gosh. Let's just take it slow. I think that's really the way to go. And let's look at the quality of these homes and the land they're on. And let's look at the quality of what we want surrounding us. I really don't want houses living on a ½ acre across the street, one on top of each other. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. It was wonderful being here.
Okay, thank you everybody for showing up. I really appreciate it. Is there one more comment? All right, come on up. Oh, Durham, yes, sorry. Almost forgot.
My name is Joy O'Clair. I live on Brown Road. I live at the base of the hill where Jim has got a road planned that goes up into that little 20-unit subdivision area. I have a couple of comments. One, as Marcia pointed out, people go very quickly down Brown Road. Because I'm at the base of the hill, we have pulled out of our driveway, which his road is across from, and nearly gotten hit on several occasions because it's sort of a blind area coming down the hill. So that's the first comment. Second, I'm concerned about the amount of water runoff that would go into the Chandler Brook, in that the Brown Road has flooded on several occasions, even with the new culverts. So I would be concerned about what that extra runoff might do to road flooding, and for myself personally, it would also flood my property. And personally, because that road is across from my property, I'm going to be hit with light pollution and headlights, et cetera, coming down the road that he has proposed. But those are my main concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for everybody for coming tonight, and I do appreciate the comments. I hope the applicant was listening. I'm sure he was, to the comments that the people of Pownell were making, and I hope that maybe he'll take some of these ideas into consideration when reformulating a plan. At this stage, we don't have to notify abutters, but please pay attention to the website. The Pownell Planning Board meeting is the 3rd Wednesday of every month. You can see the agenda the week before. We are not going to inform anybody of the meetings, but if you look, the information will be there, the agenda's there. Feel free to stop by. We're happy to have everybody here. I will always allow a little bit of time for public comment at the end of the meeting. So thank you. I think if we're done, does anybody else have any other comments, questions? Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm already ready to get out of here. Sorry. My apologies.
No, it'll either be July or August, probably.
Okay.
So, Rick, I believe, I don't know if you heard about the grading. No, you think they'll be ready?
We haven't heard anything from it.
Okay. So looks like a light month next month. Stay tuned. We'll plan on meeting at this point, but we'll see what comes up on the agenda. Okay. I move that we adjourn the May meeting of the Pownell Planning Board.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
You still want that?
Florida. Been out mowing the lawn. Crazy. When I tell them to get it stuff.